I am a feature reporter in Texas Amarillo for ABC 7 News, and I had the great opportunity of hanging with you guys with SPJ in New England. And we are going to dive into a book that has got a lot of people talking. It is called The Grifters Club of Trump, Mar-a-Lago, and the Sellings of the Presidency. And we have two authors who are behind it all, Nicholas and Sarah. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
No problem. I know you guys are super, super busy during your days and your weeks, even with the pandemic. So we'll get right into it. Before we start the conversation, though, I will get you guys your brief introductions. So Nicholas Nehamas, he is an investigative reporter for the Miami Herald. He is a part of a team that won the 2017 I'm stuttering this today. It's like on my Monday. Pulitzer Prize and explanatory reporting for the Panama Papers. Now, Sarah Blaskey, she's also an investigative reporter and data specialist at the Miami Herald. For their reporting on Trump tourism, she, Nicholas, and Caitlin Ostrup were named finalists in the 2020 Livingston Award for Excellence in National Reporting. So guys, of course, you guys are super busy, but you managed to get this book out that is also published, and it is on sale on Amazon right now. One thing I'm seeing a lot of people having reviews about it being one of the best books right now, right before elections and early voting. But my first question will want to be is, what did you guys all have to do to get this book up and running? What all did you have to do to get it writing and ready to roll?
So this book is a true Miami story, and like any Miami story, it wasn't intended. So about a year and a half ago, Robert Kraft was charged with soliciting prostitution in Palm Beach. And that was a story that Nick and myself and our colleague Caitlin Ostrup started reporting on. And there's always this question, how far did this go? And so we started digging into the background of these spas that Robert Kraft was frequenting. And we found this woman, Cindy Yang, who had been in the spa business. She was the former owner of that spa, but it turns out she had changed her life and she had become kind of a tour agent, but a particular kind of tour agent. And she was selling access to the president at Mar-a-Lago. And from there, our reporting just sort of spiraled. And I think Nick can pick up from there, because the reason we have a book is largely thanks to him and his team, but that's really where this started.
Yeah, so I was actually working on another book at the time, which comes out in March. So I'm excited to do I hope it won't be a virtual book tour at that point, but it probably will. And the publisher and our agent saw Sarah's reporting and our reporting on Cindy Yang, and we're like, wow, this sounds like it could be a book. And I don't think that it ever occurred to us that, there could be enough here, but Sarah really took the lead in reporting and sourcing. And I think, what we quickly figured out was, we're local journalists in South Florida. We were not going to do an inside DC book. We were not going to be able to source, at that level. It's just too far away. And so we went really hard on Palm Beach Society, the Florida GOP, and the staffers at Mar-a-Lago, who really know everything about the club. And Sarah spent a lot of time getting into that. Those are all, pretty insular worlds, the Florida GOP less so, but even they, don't tend to trust reporters from, even local newspapers. So I don't know if Sarah, if I'm getting too far ahead of the questions, or if Sarah, you want to talk a little bit about the reporting process, because it was intense.
Yeah, no, I don't want to get ahead of the questions, but yeah, it was an accident. And Nick came to me and said, hey, do you think that you could write a book on Mar-a-Lago if we had some time and some resources? And I said, maybe.
Might as well just go have a stab at it. The good thing I find, the interesting thing I find about investigative reporting is that you really never know what you're going to get. And you guys got an entire book from it with all of your discoveries, because in this book, you talk about all the scandals, all of the things that we may or may not even know as Americans. What were some things that stuck out to you that you just find kind of extraordinary?
Nick, do you want to take it while I think of the answer? Because I'm not from South Florida, and a lot of the stuff still seems really crazy to me.
So one of the really interesting things for me was that, even moments that we thought we knew, there was so much more right under the surface. So for instance, it was pretty widely reported that Trump and Shinzo Abe were dining together on the terrace of Mar-a-Lago. Abe is a Japanese prime minister when Korea launched a ballistic missile, a test missile, that they one day hope to put a nuclear warhead on it in the direction of Japan. And this, classified briefing starts, and all the members are taking pictures and, wow, we're right in the middle of the action, live tweeting while all the aides are gathered around. And we actually got deeper into that moment and found out that right before that news broke, Trump was being entertained by one of his favorite lounge singers. And he asked her to twirl for the prime minister to, show her off, which she did, apparently. She's, well-versed in Palm Beach society. And if Donald Trump, whether he's president or not, asks you to twirl, you twirl. She's known him for many years. And then this news broke, and she could overhear what was being talked about, apparently, because someone told us that, she said, "Oh, Mr. President, I really shouldn't be hearing this." And he said, "It's just nukes. Sing us a song." And,
wow,
that was his reaction. And it really kind of shows the reader and shows us as reporters just how much Trump at his core is a host, and a very charming host. And the fact that he does so much business at this very open club in some ways reveals that, national security is not his priority. His mind stays on the songs. His mind stays on showing his guests a good time. And he's always, from the beginning of his career, had this ability to really charm people. And I think that's one of the new things in the book, because, you see him out there giving speeches, talking about Charlottesville, very aggressive speeches about immigrants and race. And there's this other side of him where people like Bob Kraft, who don't agree with his politics, really actually like him. And I think it's important for people to understand, why he is as successful as a politician as he is. And a lot of it stems right from Mar-a-Lago.
Sarah, did you want to add to that at all?
Yeah, I'm just sort of pondering what was the most surprising, because I felt like most of the things that I learned were kind of surprising or odd or just, eyebrow raising. But I think the part that surprised me most was actually how I'm from the Midwest, and how very clearly likable Donald Trump is to your everyday person. I had heard both narratives. I'm not a political reporter. That's not what I do. And so initially I was sort of interested in the national security angle of this story, but what ended up being the thing that I couldn't get over was how very likable this man is, despite everything that, there are legitimate critiques about whether or not he has broken the law, has violated constitutional amendments, has made money off of this presidency. And at the end of the day, that's not why his members or his supporters like him. They like him because he makes them feel good, because he tailors everything that he does to making them feel good. And that was the realization that I think over time was the most surprising to me, but also the most revealing. So often we see Donald Trump as this contradiction, right? Someone who maybe was racist, but now is pretending not to be, or wasn't racist when he started his club because it was the most inclusive club in Palm Beach, but then, says terrible things, or is a germaphobe until he has a pandemic and he doesn't even want to wear a mask. And looking at his club and how he treats his members, I was able to see for the first time that Donald Trump, to his core, is a party host. And he's the kind of guy whose party you want to go to, because if you're invited to that party, you're going to have a good time, because that's what he does. That's what his entire brand is. And, you know, good, bad, or ugly, however you see that, people who know him find that compelling. And then you can see all of his political decisions through that lens. So he, you know, doesn't wear a mask because his party guests, you know, the voters and the GOP don't want to wear masks. They want to see it as a freedom issue. And okay, Donald Trump, the germaphobe, is going to be okay with that, because whatever makes his party guests feel the best, feel most included. That's the part that really I didn't expect to find when I started digging.
When you guys are speaking about that, one word is just in my head the whole time: election, election, election. And then I'm reading the reviews, I'm reading, you know, about this book, and I'm investigating about the book. And my next question will be, for a reader, do you think that they should take this book for a tool to learn more about Donald Trump before making a decision at the voting polls?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think you can understand Donald Trump without, you know, after 30 years at this point, seeing him as a creature of Palm Beach. You know, it's no accident that he made his official home Mar-a-Lago. You know, one member told us that he was just making official what everyone already knew. You know, he isn't a New Yorker at this point. He's a Palm Beacher, and he ascribes to, you know, the mores of that town. And so I don't think voters can understand him without understanding this side of him. And that's why I think this book is different. As I said before, it's not a Washington book. And, you know, what we really saw in our reporting process is that the people who've known him at this club for 20, 30 years are the ones who really knows how he works. And, you know, time and again, they are able to outmaneuver the establishment, the political consultants, the operatives in DC, you know, the senators and the congressmen. These are the people who know how he works. And there's one quick example, which is the president, or I think it was two former presidents of Colombia, you know, wanted to meet Trump, and at Mar-a-Lago, a Mar-a-Lago member talked to Steve Bannon about it. And, you know, Bannon was like, no, that's not happening. And at the end of the day, those two presidents met with Donald Trump at Mar-a-Lago, tweeted about it. You know, it was kind of a secret until they tweeted about it. And it just showed that the member had worked his back channels. He knew that you never approached Trump directly. You kind of, in his words, you plant seeds, plant ideas, and you water them, and you see which ones sprout. Because as Sarah was saying, you know, Trump doesn't really have a political ideology. He goes with what people are telling him, what people he trusts are telling him, what people whose support he needs are telling him. If there's a new singer at the club, he'll never ask, he'll never say, I really like that, I didn't like that. He goes around the room and says, did you like that new singer? Did you like that new singer? And that's the way he makes his political decisions as well.
Very interesting. What do you think this new knowledge of Trump that you guys are kind of exposing to readers, what do you think that, or how do you think it will affect our future after the 2020 elections?
You know, I don't really know how people will react to the information. But I can sort of say that a lot of the books we read, a lot of the reporting we read about Donald Trump, we know what his policy positions are. We know when he's contradicted himself. You know, that's all over the national headlines. We know the facts. But I think what this book does, and I think it does it relatively quickly. It's not super long. It's not, you don't have to be a political insider to read it. Like, I think what it does is it shows you a side that the headlines won't, that these, insiders that are leaking to all of these publications from DC won't show you. And one of the things I think is kind of interesting is, of all the major book titles that we've seen, and this is not absolutely not a knock to these books. They've been fantastic largely. But, you know, most of them are either written by a disgruntled former insider, someone who has gotten kicked out of the inside and is now on the outside and is writing about what they noticed on the inside now that they're on the outside. And then you also have the books by Sean Hannity and others who are very, you know, gonna sing the praises for the most part of the president regardless. Our book talks to people about their everyday experience of the president of the United States and what it was like converting a historic property in Florida to effectively a White House, right? And I think that more than a news break or, you know, this book reveals this one thing, what might be worth giving a shot in this book is the idea that it will show you something about character from a frank perspective of lots of people, and many of them still respect the president, are still friends with him. So I think that leading up to the election, if you're looking for something different, I think this book is a little different than what we usually see.
I think that President Trump, whether people like it or not, he has given the United States something else to look at when it comes to a president. And I think this is what your book is showing too, that he's just not the president of the United States, but he's a likable person. He knows how to work his way around the room. And I think that that is going to kind of shift what we see in the next presidential candidates in a couple of years ahead. And I don't know whether or not that is a good thing or a bad thing, but I think it's something that's unprecedented as much as the coronavirus pandemic. We just don't really know at this point, but that's just my insight on it. I also want to know, you guys talk about Jeffrey Epstein, and he has been in the tabloids and in the news for quite some time now, but President Trump did say he was not a member of this club, but your book says otherwise. So tell us a little bit about how you guys discovered that.
So Epstein and Trump, certainly, you know, they weren't the closest of friends, but they palled around. And this was before he was indicted in state court in Palm Beach. I mean, Trump, you know, gave that bizarre quote to New York Magazine that I'm sure, you know, many people have read, that, oh, you know, Jeffrey Epstein really likes to party and he loves women as much as I do. And many of them are on the younger side. And so, you know, Epstein's behavior was a bit of an open secret in Palm Beach society in a lot of ways. He's been photographed at Mar-a-Lago. He was known to be at Mar-a-Lago, but the Trump organization and the president have insisted that he was never a member. And everyone took them at their word because, and this is one of the problems that we really delve into in the book, the membership list of Mar-a-Lago, which now comes at a $250,000 price, is a secret. You know, we don't know who's there necessarily, who's buying access to whisper into the president's ear. But we were able to see a copy of a membership list that very explicitly said Jeffrey Epstein, with the home address at his mansion, former mansion now in Palm Beach, was a member of Mar-a-Lago, and his account was closed in October 2007. And what we also reported is that this was because Epstein had made a pass, perhaps a very aggressive pass, at the teenage daughter of a member. And so Trump kicked him out. And it was really because Mar-a-Lago is Trump's brand, and he can't have, you know, members going after other members' teenage daughters. It's not good for his business. And as a result, he got rid of Epstein.
Why do you think Trump tried to diminish all ties? Well, I guess it's kind of obvious, but, you know, he said he was never a member, but you guys did find he was kicked out, or his account was closed. But why do you think that President Trump would try to say, I never had any fight with him, but there's proof out there?
I think President Trump has counted on the privacy of his club. And the idea that this membership list, especially an old membership list, like we viewed, you know, this wasn't today's membership list. This was something that had been, kept for years, that showed this very clearly, and we were able to authenticate. I think he did not count on that happening. I think the president is very brand focused, as Nick was saying. And I think that the best thing for him to do was distance from this in terms of a brand, especially because initially there were ties to people in his administration who had been part of this sort of deal that cut Epstein a break in Palm Beach early on. And I think he needed to backpedal quickly politically. I think he did not expect that maybe even one of those lists still existed, right? That is possible. We don't know that. And the other thing I would say is this. The thing that stuck out to me, and you didn't ask this as a question, but I'll just say that stuck out to me about this is that we know that there's the allegation that Virginia Jeffrey was recruited when she was underage from Mar-a-Lago. And so the obvious conclusion when you see that Jeffrey Epstein was kicked out is that maybe Donald Trump found out that Virginia had been recruited there. And then you find out that, yes, in fact, from the members, the chatter is that he has been kicked out because he has harassed someone, or worse, as Nick said. And then it turns out that it's not her, even though things are moving forward in the courts. And this was another thing that I found relatively shocking in Palm Beach, was that Jeffrey Epstein was not a secret in this small town. Everyone knew that there were these young women, young girls going to his house, and nobody, I don't want to say nobody, but certainly lots of people did not think it was wrong. And they have reflected that to me in interviews I have done. And that is shocking.
It's shocking in a way. And I'm sorry, go ahead, Nick.
I was just going to quickly elaborate on Sarah's point. I mean, to the extent that, they said, well, the victims, although they don't call them victims, hey, they got money, they got college educations. Like, why is everyone making such a big deal out of this? I mean, and that's why, it was an open secret, and that reflects the morality of Palm Beach. I mean, you can never forget what Trump said, and was it the Access Hollywood bus? I mean, that is very much a part of the culture of Palm Beach, that sexist machismo is respected there.
What do you guys, when you're talking about that and saying it wasn't a secret and it wasn't seen as wrong, do you think that reflects on the power of positions that these officials, these people, these higher ups that were in Mar-a-Lago, in this circle, does it reflect on, an abuse of power, or how strongly power can just kind of push or brush a situation under the rug?
I can't speak to what extreme wealth does to a person. That's not something I've ever experienced. But what I can tell you is that in Palm Beach, the society there is very insular, largely because it has band together around its shared experience of multi-generational wealth. And things that, again, might be acceptable if a girl from outside of the community was going to Jeffrey Epstein, or he had recruited her, that would be considered maybe something that was unpalatable, but certainly not something that anyone was going to call the cops about. That happening to the daughter of someone within that society is viewed entirely differently. And so what I think you're seeing is a class distinction. I think you're seeing how class plays out in the United States today.
Going back to, you guys spoke with and interviewed a lot of staffers, a lot of people behind the walls of Mar-a-Lago. Did you guys ever come across any obstacles? Because you said, some people don't trust news reporters and media right now. Did you guys come through into any obstacles that may have hindered any stories or became a challenge in getting to the bottom of your investigations?
I mean, I'm going to throw this one to Sarah because she really led the reporting, but I will say that an email, I think, went out at one point warning staffers that a Miami Herald reporter was sniffing around their apartment building and that they were not to talk to her. And that was Sarah Blaskey, and she managed to talk to them anyway.
Sarah, how did you manage to do that? We have to know.
I contacted a lot of people, and I gave them the opportunity to speak the same way any other reporter would. I was willing to protect their identities if that was what they needed. I understand that people are vulnerable, but I think at the end of the day, we really have to recognize the bravery of people that did speak to me. There isn't, I can't see a personal gain out of speaking if you're a staff member of Mar-a-Lago, but people did because they thought it was the right thing to do. They thought that the people that would ultimately read the book deserved the information that they had. And frankly, the other driving influence was fear, and the fear that this place had gotten so out of control that they needed to tell someone because they were afraid that the next break-in, the next incident, the next person that jumped the fence was going to endanger possibly them or their colleagues. And so I think that anyone that reads the book, owes a thank you to these people for doing what I think a lot of us wouldn't.
And, what I think is really interesting about the position these staffers found themselves in is, these are cooks and waiters and gardeners who got a job at a really ritzy private club in Palm Beach. They never expected it to become the winter White House. These are not people who signed up to work for the federal government in any way. And all of a sudden they found themselves in the most controversial presidency, since Richard Nixon, arguably. And, like Sarah was saying, it's about national security. It's about their own safety. I mean, this is a club that still doesn't hire enough doesn't hire armed guards at all, doesn't hire enough guards to man all the entrances on a 17-acre property. So, they're speaking out both to protect themselves, I think, and to protect the nation.
You guys also spoke in your book, and it's in the description here, that President Trump conducts government business with little regard to ethics, security, or even the law. As Nick was saying, there's not enough security. Where do you see the future of Mar-a-Lago going after people get a hand on this book?
I think Mar-a-Lago will largely continue in the same way unless there are enough voters, enough of the American public that really raise this as an issue that they feel strongly about, especially Republican voters, right? If Republican voters decided that this was something they cared deeply about, that might be something that President Trump would be interested in addressing or whatnot. But you can see in the pages of the book and these kind of bizarre anecdotes that happen that time and time again, it doesn't matter what precedent was. It doesn't matter the way that previous presidents acted. It doesn't matter what the recommendations of Secret Service are. People who are serving this country to protect the president, their opinions don't matter as much as the president's desires at this club. And so it would take a huge shift in lots and lots of people whose opinions the president does care about. It would take many of them coming out and saying enough is enough for anything, I think, to really change. Although I should say that in the last 6 months, okay, maybe 9 at this point, there have been a couple of changes. For the first time ever, for example, the Secret Service has briefed staff at this club, telling them things like, don't agree to give information in exchange for your student debt to be paid off. And if you have debt in your life, you are particularly vulnerable to the advances of a access agent, a quote unquote spy from another country, because they will try to manipulate your needs and desires to do something easy. Well, just tell me who's sitting next to the president at dinner one night, for example. That's enough information for someone from an enemy government to start building, something that can be a lot worse for the president. And the staff up until the end of 2019 had not received such a briefing. And let me just point out that not even all of the staff are Americans. They are temporary workers from abroad who probably don't feel allegiance to this country in the same way that maybe you or I do. And who's to blame them? Again, this is a summer job for them, essentially. And until now, we haven't even seen that kind of briefing.
As investigative reporters in Miami, how does it feel for you two to be an author of a book that is touching so many hands right now and is very relevant in today's political climate?
Well, I think, that's why we jumped at this opportunity. The Trump presidency in South Florida is a local story. He lives here, he does business here, scandals happen here. And so, how often do you as a regional newspaper journalist get the chance to write a book about the president? I mean, I think there was, no question that we were going to do this. I mean, it felt extremely daunting in the beginning, and we're like, how do we source, how do we write, how do we make this different? But we really hit our groove after a couple of months, and it was a fun project. And I mean, there's a lot of serious stuff in there, but I think the book reads in kind of a fun, breezy, gossipy way. It's the only way to transmit some of that information without really, knocking the reader back. And, we had the Miami Herald columnist and novelist Carl Hyacin. He, offered to blurb the book, and we did that intentionally. Someone, I think in an Amazon review or maybe it was on Twitter, said, if this were a novel and it reads like one, it would seem too outlandish. I wouldn't believe half the stuff. So, it turned out to be an enjoyable, if stressful, process.
Sarah, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I hope that if you're shy about reading a political book, or you think like maybe politics are over your head, this is really accessible. And I can say that because politics sometimes are over my head. I am not a politics reporter, and I did not write this pretending to be one. I wrote it as a way into the psyche, and Nick wrote it as the way into the psyche through stories that are largely funny, or at least different. And so I'd say, I hope that what local reporters can bring to the table here in this crazy time is just a fresh perspective that doesn't feel like it's looking down from the ivory tower on its readers. I hope that we were able to meet people where they're at, because I got to say, like, that's where I'm at with a lot of these things.
I think that's the great thing about journalism, is we can break things down and break people down so they're not so much of an item or some figure on a pedestal that we just have to look up to, but we bring the stories where it's community based in a sense, and where people can understand it, and speaking in terms of, if this was my mom and my sister just sitting here talking about, guess what we seen the president do, or guess what we heard about the president. And I think that's what the book represents. For you guys in the future, I know, Nick, you said you have a book coming out in March. Do you guys have anything else, maybe a sequel to this book that you may be planning on doing?
I think that depends on how the election goes, but certainly, the club will be opening up around Thanksgiving. And so we'll be doing a lot of reporting for the Herald, in the months that come. I mean, it depends on the coronavirus. I mean, the club got shut down, by COVID. What is reopening going to look like there? I mean, is the club going to get special treatment of some kind? There are a lot of stories to do about that place, because it is Trump's favorite place in the whole world. He values it more than anything else. I mean, he talks about it constantly, you know, and experts say that he's violating, you know, the Hatch Act and others when he does kind of use his office to advertise and profit off the club. And that's a, you know, significant part of the book as well, how much he promotes the club to his own financial benefit. I mean, they doubled the membership fee and then raised it to $250,000 after he won election. That's a pretty naked act of opportunism and corruption right there. And it's just one kind of peek at how he approaches business.
Yeah, I just want to follow up and say, win or lose, I started thinking about what it would look like if this wasn't the winter White House anymore. Because at some point that will happen, we think, you know, but then I realized that actually Secret Service details are given to all former presidents, and the same issues about how do you rent rooms to the Secret Service? How do you handle these different questions about, are you profiting off of those room rentals? Are you, you know, is this somehow enriching you? Still apply. And I think that we're going to see a very interesting transition. I think that, you know, if it happens now, if it happens 5 years from now, regardless, I think that there are still plenty of things about this one place, Donald Trump's home, that are going to keep being interesting. Miami Herald has a dedication to covering.
I want to get a personal insight for you guys. I know there's a lot of young journalists. I'm one of them. And for people, or even authors, writers who may be aspiring to write a book or investigate something, what did you take from this journey that you would have told your younger self before starting?
Well, I was lucky. I had a colleague that actually told me what I'm going to tell you now early in this process. He's only a couple of years older than me, and I was so stressed. And I thought, how on earth am I going to write a book that, you know, says anything people haven't already said, yada, yada, yada. And he said, Sarah, lots of people write books. Most of them are bad. And so yours is probably going to be better than a lot of them, because I know you're a good reporter and all of that stuff. So you should feel like that's a win. And also, you know, most people don't read your book. So you should write this book based on what you think would be interesting and what you think you want to write in between those pages. And I said, well, Rob, I kind of want to write something a little funny. Like, I'm a little bored of the seriousness that is happening. I think it makes it inaccessible. And he says, write that. So I did. And I think that was the best talk I could have gotten, is take yourself a little less seriously and just do what you think is interesting, because I'm sure there are other people out there that think what you think is interesting is also interesting. And your haters will be out there, but you know, there'll be a lot of people that think that your perspective is fresh and interesting too.
Nick, did you have anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Sarah. Take the work seriously, but don't take yourself seriously, I think, or too seriously. I think that's also, you know, why especially Sarah was so good at sourcing for this book. I mean, I saw it in action. She really connected with everyone from the club members to the staff. And I think it was because she came in with that attitude of, hey, this is serious stuff, but like, we're going to approach it in a different and fun way. And sources saw that kind of sincerity and really responded to it. So when you're investigating anything, I mean, you can't do it without people and without sources. And, you know, you have to seem trustworthy and likable. And I think that was the reason the reporting was a success in the end.
Awesome. Guys, this was a great conversation. Thank you again for your time. We're going to go ahead and go to the chat. And several people have asked some questions. So we will open this up for questions if you guys have any. One person said, what was the funniest thing you uncovered?
Well, my favorite detail in the book is this moment after Donald Trump becomes president, and there are all these questions. It seems like he's going to do this business deal in Dubai, and there's this really rich developer in Dubai who's been coming to Mar-a-Lago, and Donald Trump decides he's not going to do this deal. He makes this big public announcement. He's going to turn this deal down. This guy is not going to be his business partner going forward. And then there's this photo. There's a photo of Donald Trump Jr. meeting that same guy in Dubai, and they are eating chicken nuggets off of ornate china. And I was just like, not only are they doing what they said they weren't going to do, but they are doing it over a plate of like actually chicken nuggets, not even chicken tenders, actually chicken nuggets and French fries on ornate china. And it's just this juxtaposition of worlds, like wow. The most like high and falutin china mixed with chicken nuggets. And I just, to this day, giggle about that image because it's so on brand in so many ways.
Did you have anything to add to that?
I think maybe my funniest thing is the thing that I found the most funny is Mar-a-Lago is a historic property, so Trump couldn't tear it down and rebuild it in his own style, but he did spend millions of dollars building the Donald J. Trump Grand Ballroom, and he did it in this lavish Louis XIV style imitating Versailles. And when he walked in, he saw that it wasn't shiny enough, and he spent another $7 million coating the whole thing in real gold leaf. But what he didn't realize is that all that plus the mirrored walls made the acoustics unbearable. Sarah and I actually went to an event in the Donald J. Trump Grand Ballroom, and even without the Italian opera singer, you could not hear yourself talk or think just from the din of the conversation. So
yikes.
It's very detail oriented in some ways, about luxury or what he thinks is luxury, but he fails in others.
If you didn't live in Miami, do you think you could have done a similar book about another one of his properties like DC or New Jersey, or do you think Mar-a-Lago is too unique of a property?
I think Mar-a-Lago is unique. And actually, Donald Trump has a golf course, Trump Doral, in Miami. It's half a mile from where our office building used to be. And there's a reason we didn't choose that golf course to write a book about, right? It's just not the same thing. Mar-a-Lago is a unique thing in all of Trump's business interests. And it's his crown jewel. He knows it. He talks about it. It's undoubtedly his best business deal he's ever made. He bought it for pennies on the dollar. You have to hand it to him. And also, this is how Donald Trump got into the elite society that everyone said you can't buy your way into. Mm-hmm. Palm Beach, I've heard someone say this: if your parents or grandparents didn't come over on the Mayflower, great-grandparents, then you don't belong in Palm Beach. And Donald Trump's great-grandparents didn't come over on the Mayflower. He wasn't that old wealth. He wasn't what Palm Beach wanted, and they hated him so much. And Mar-a-Lago was his way into that society. This is the way. He bought what is iconic in this tiny little island. This home is iconic. People there like it. And he stamped Trump all over it, literally down to the hamburger buns that he has stamped Trump on. And he has made it a place that people want to go to. And he has effectively been the first and possibly only person to successfully buy his way into Palm Beach society. And he did that with Mar-a-Lago. And so there is no place on earth like Mar-a-Lago to Donald Trump. And of course, it's also his home, actually his domicile, his residence. So there's that also.
How do you think he did it? How do you think he achieved the unachievable?
he was fun. As we've said, Palm Beach
Yeah.
was a waspy old money place, and he was this playboy developer from Queens who came in and bussed cheerleaders and professional athletes up to his club. And, you know, despite his long and well-documented history of racism, he saw a market in Palm Beach. You know, these old money clubs didn't let in new money. They didn't let in African Americans. They didn't let in Jews, and except for the one, you know, Jewish club. And he opened the doors. If you had money, you could come party with Donald Trump. And, you know, high society turned their noses up at first and, you know, called him a tasteless vulgarian, but at the end of the day, they wanted to go party at Mar-a-Lago with Donald Trump and models. And you know, I just wanted to respond quickly. I see, you know, Artie made a good comment here. The discussion so far seems to undersell the title Grifters Club. There is a lot in the book, and we haven't focused on that yet. But you know, the president has undeniably used his office to profit. I mean, I mentioned the membership fee. You know, reporters have documented nearly $1 million in direct government spending at his club, which would seem to be a violation of the emoluments clause in the Constitution. And that's just a fraction of what he's actually made. But just to give you, I mean, one specific example, there is a reason Donald Trump hosts Shinzo Abe and President Xi Jinping of China, not at the White House, but at Mar-a-Lago. It is the best free advertising you could ever imagine, and it really benefits his bottom line. You know, after the president's racist comments after the Charlottesville march, the white nationalist march at Charlottesville, Mar-a-Lago lost a lot of its kind of high society charity gala business. American Red Cross, Dana-Farber, you know, those events pumped a lot of money into the club, and they felt they could no longer be associated with the president after those comments. And, you know, who filled the gap? It was people like Cindy Yang, who Sarah mentioned at the very beginning of this call, who were responding to the demand in China of wealthy people, business people, who had seen Xi visit Mar-a-Lago and wanted to go where Xi had met the president of the United States. I mean, Mar-a-Lago was not a thing in China before that. And so all of a sudden you have hundreds of Chinese tourists, you know, traveling to America, to Palm Beach, to have a chance to sit in the president's club, which they can, because while it's, you know, open only to members, you can buy tickets to attend charity events there if you're a member or not, or if you're a guest of a member. Sarah, sorry, you do.
Yeah, I think that's a good point, Nick. And one of the things is the way that Donald Trump behaves at this club does help his bottom line. And as a data journalist, the big question that plagued my mind throughout this entire process was, has this been profitable for the president? You know, has he actually profited from this presidency? And we were able to break down his OGE disclosure forms in a sort of monthly average to do our best comparison. And what became clear was, at least at Mar-a-Lago, the campaign and then the presidency at first were hugely profitable. You know, you saw a major spike in revenue at this property as people clamored to get close to the president. And this is something that he actively promotes. He will not take the Secret Service's recommendation of where to sit off to the side at dinner, because he knows that being in the mix, being around people, walking to his table and putting his hand on, you know, so-and-so's shoulder, hey, have you lost weight, is going to sell these memberships and make people feel important. But it's not just that. It's that the access is largely fake. The idea that you can be close to the president is largely false. If you have spent $250 entrance fee, and again, let's keep in mind that he has continued, the Trump organization has continued to raise the price at Mar-a-Lago since he became president. There are a finite number of memberships, and as they started filling up, the price went from $100,000 to $200,000 to $250,000, and now it's basically whatever someone will pay. And that happens because there's this idea that you can be close to the president. He might even make you feel like you're close to the president, but there are only I'd say a dozen members, maybe a little bit more, who actually have the president's ear in a real way. But there's a perception that all of the people who he shouts at, hey, how you doing, at dinner, that they are close to him. And then a couple of them, not all of them, but a couple of them are able to then capitalize on that and sell more access to other people. Hey, I'm close to the president. This is going to help me build my personal brand. Or, hey, I'm close to the president. You want to get close? You can come with me to this dinner. And so there's sort of concentric circles of this game of trying to squeeze profits out of this situation, which is not true to everyone there. I don't want to say every member is exploiting their position as a member. That would not be true, but certainly it has happened. And that's how people like Cindy Yang end up being able to promote events and then sell access to these events in China, is because ultimately they got in through a member. And so it's this ever increasing circle of, I'm not going to call it grift, but it is certainly an exaggeration of access.
There's one question here that says, do you think your revelations will lead to change for future presidents who own properties?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think this has raised issues that were foreseen in some ways by the founding fathers. I mean, we have a chapter called Over Hamilton's Dead Body, you know, referencing Alexander Hamilton. The founding fathers certainly saw the potentially pernicious influence of foreign money subverting the interests of the American people by, you know, influencing our leaders. Jimmy Carter, you know, sold his peanut farm. Now that Trump is president, has it normalized, has his presidency normalized the leader of the nation owning and running and profiting from a hospitality empire while in office with, you know, 10,000 avenues of corruption? I don't know, but we are certainly have been in uncharted territory with this presidency, and it's a huge concern to constitutional scholars, anti-corruption activists, national security experts. It just gives so many ways for foreign money and potentially foreign influence and espionage to enter our political system.
All right, next question says, so when he's done, do you, with his presidency, do you anticipate a dramatic change in membership and revenue still? And do you think that that will be noticeable and followed up by the press?
Well, we're going to follow up on it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if we count as the press, then definitely going to be followed up on. I have been wondering about that. We've seen a decline over the last 2 years in revenue brought in by the club. It's certainly still higher than prior to his presidency, but it isn't what it was pre-Charlottesville. That could be explained by the big ticket galas still not wanting to be there while he's president, but maybe they would return after he wasn't president anymore. That's a little bit hard to predict. But the other thing is, you know, initially, he takes in several dozen new members. They pay these $250,000 or just under new membership fees. And that will spike revenue at first, right? I think somewhere in the book it says close to $5 million, conservative estimate, in just revenue from initiation fees.
Wow.
And I wonder if some of the initial spike that we saw was just a result of that. And now that, you know, because of this membership cap, not as many people can join anymore. And so we're sort of seeing the evening out of that revenue. It's too early to say. It could go either way, but we will follow up on it. I can guarantee you that.
Adam asked, how much does President Trump charge the Secret Service to protect him? Now, you guys spoke a lot about people wanting to be close. They're thinking that they're close, but it's kind of a facade. So how much does he charge?
I'm forgetting the numbers, Sarah, but wasn't the Secret Service at one point paying like $600 per night for rooms, I think? And then you know, I think the Washington Post, David Fahrenthold, reported that. And the club's answer, you know, once there were complaints, the club's answer was to make the Secret Service an honorary member, because members pay a lower rate for rooms. And so in that way, the club was able to offer a discount. But, you know, there are all sorts of, I mean, one of my favorite little chapters is about the troubles that civil servants in DC trying to pay for all these government expenditures at a private club face, you know, trying to follow the law and their own regulations. And, you know, there's one bureaucrat, career bureaucrat, who's complaining to his colleagues about how difficult this is. And he ends the email, you know, Mar-a-Lago has given me a headache with a smiley face. And, you know, that's just not an email or a topic I expected to be reporting on when we started this book.
Yeah, it is. It has been $600 for a room, but we also have to remember that Secret Service have to rent all kinds of different rooms. They even need a kind of command center when they're at this so-called winter White House. And so that might be renting beyond just, you know, rooms to stay in. It might be renting a tea room, conference area, whatever, to set up their screens, to set up their, you know, different equipment that they need. I'm not former Secret Service. I can't even pretend to know all of the different things they need, but we don't know how much it costs American taxpayers every time he goes to that club, because most of the receipts have not been disclosed. And again, I want to give a shout out to the Washington Post, which has done, you know, incredible reporting on this, ProPublica, and you know, other organizations that have really focused on getting the records that exist today, but they are a tiny fraction of the amount of money that is actually being spent, and taxpayer money. And from that, what I can say is basically everything costs money. Everything from a little bit of food to the room rental to whatever is being billed to the government when, you know, someone from the Secret Service or other White House staff or whatever go to Mar-a-Lago. And there's still to be a full accounting of that. And I guess I should end with saying, part of that goes into the president's pocket. We're not exactly sure how much, but part of it does, because this is his business.
You guys have revealed so much, but yet there's so much more that we have to continue to kind of pick at and chip at, because it's the president, it's the government. I feel like, you know, there's a lot that we don't know. Like, as Sarah said, there's so much that we just don't know. But I think we have concluded this Zoom for this evening. Sarah and Nicholas, I wanted to thank you so much for your time again. I know you have busy schedules. You guys can find this book on Amazon. And then we have the links that are being posted in the chat right now. But other than that, guys, is there anything, final closing remarks that you wanted to add tonight?
No, this was great on my end. Thank you so much for moderating, and everyone for your attention and having us. I hope if you haven't read the book yet that you will, and that, you know, you really enjoy it.
Yeah, I just want to say, like, today, supporting a local newsroom matters. So if it's not the Miami Herald, support whatever your local newsroom is in the area that you live, because it allows local journalists to do that on the ground reporting like we all do on this call. And it's more appreciated than you can even imagine.
I second that motion. I've been for just a year, and I'm learning so much about the background. You know, it's not all glamorous. We really do have like feet to the pavement, working super hard. So definitely get the book, guys. Definitely support your local newsrooms. And to that, we will say good night, and make sure you get the book. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.